The piercing whine of energy weapons fills the air as human soldier Darren Evans crouches behind a crumbling wall, his exosuit sensors alerting him to incoming fire. Through the chaos of battle, his eyes lock onto a sight that changes everything. A wounded Norcadian female trapped beneath fallen debris, her alien features contorted in pain and fear. Darren's comm unit crackles to life. All units, fall back. Repeat, fall back. To extraction point, Alpha. His commanding officer's voice is urgent, but Darren hesitates. He can't leave her behind. With a burst of speed enhanced by his exosuit, Darren sprints across the battlefield, dodging enemy fire. Plasma bolts sizzle past his armor, leaving scorch marks on the ground. He reaches the trapped Norcadian, assessing the situation quickly. "Hold on, I've got you," he says, knowing she can't understand him. The debris is heavy, but Darren's exosuit gives him the strength he needs. He strains against the weight, servos whining as he lifts the massive chunk of concrete. The Norcadian female crawls free, her violet eyes wide with a mix of fear and wonder. Darren helps her to her feet, supporting her weight. "I'm Darren," he says, tapping his chest. "What's your name?" She responds in a melodic language he doesn't understand, but he catches one word that sounds like Fae. A sudden movement catches Darren's eye. A group of rebel Norcadians emerges from the ruins, weapons raised. Darren pushes Fae behind him, raising his own rifle. The rebels open fire. Darren's training kicks in. He ducks and weaves, returning fire while keeping Fae shielded. His exosuit's enhanced reflexes allow him to dodge incoming shots with inhuman speed. As the rebels close in, Darren engages in hand-to-hand combat. His fists connect with alien flesh, the exosuit amplifying his strength. He takes down 1, 2, 3 attackers in quick succession. A lucky shot grazes his helmet, cracking the faceplate. It falls away, revealing Darren's human features to Fae. Her gasp of surprise is audible even over the sounds of battle. Darren has no time to dwell on her reaction as he finishes off the last of the rebels. With the immediate threat neutralized, Darren scoops Fae into his arms. "We need to get you to a medic," he says, more to himself than to her. He activates his comm unit. "This is Private Evans. I have a wounded civilian, requesting coordinates for the nearest medical outpost." As they make their way through the war-torn streets of Norcadia, Faye clings to Darren, her eyes never leaving his face. At the human medical outpost, Darren learns the truth about the war. A misunderstanding over a shared resource, rich moon, has pit humans and Norcadians against each other. While Faye receives treatment, she speaks to a translator. Her words shock everyone present. "She says she pledges her life in service to you," the translator tells Darren. "It's an ancient Norcadian custom called a life debt." Darren shifts uncomfortably. "Tell her that's not necessary. I was just doing my job." Before the translator can relay the message, Colonel Marcus Blackwood pulls Darren aside. "This could be our chance, Evans. We need intel on Norcadian culture and society. I'm assigning you a new mission. Accept her pledge and use it as cover to infiltrate Norcadian territory." Darren's protest dies on his lips as he realizes the potential to end the war peacefully. He nods, accepting the mission. As Faye recovers, she begins teaching Darren about Norcadian customs. He learns of their complex social hierarchy and mating rituals, finding himself increasingly drawn to Faye's alien beauty and gentle nature. For her part, Faye struggles with growing feelings that go against her society's taboos. Their departure for Norcadian territory is marred by an ugly confrontation. Sergeant Cole Thompson and his squad corner Darren and Faye as they prepare to board their transport. "You're making a mistake, Evans," Thompson snarls. "You can't trust these aliens." Darren steps between Thompson and Faye. "Stand down, Sergeant. That's an order." The tension is palpable as Darren and Faye board the transport, leaving behind a world of conflict for an uncertain future. As the ship lifts off, Darren can't help but wonder what challenges and temptations await them in Norcadian territory. The transport vessel shuddered as it entered Norcadian airspace, jostling Darren and Faye in their seats. Darren clutched the armrests, his fist clenched beneath his gloves. Faye placed a reassuring hand on his arm, her touch sending a spark through him despite the layers of fabric between them. "First time flying in Norcadian atmosphere?" she asked, her melodic voice tinged with amusement. Darren managed a tight smile. That obvious, huh? Before Faye could respond, the ship lurched violently. Alarms blared as the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Brace for impact! We're caught in a massive storm system! The vessel plummeted, spiraling through churning clouds. Darren instinctively pulled Faye close, shielding her with his body as they crashed. The world became a cacophony of screeching metal and shattering glass. When the dust settled, Darren blinked away the haze, his military training kicking in. Faye, are you all right? He asked, carefully disentangling himself from her. She nodded, violet eyes wide with shock. Yes, I think so. But where are we? They emerged from the wreckage into a world of vibrant colors and strange sounds. Towering trees with iridescent leaves swayed in the breeze, while unseen creatures chittered in the underbrush. The air was thick with the scent of alien flora. Faye gasped, her gaze sweeping across the landscape. By the ancestors, this is Zarathor. Zarathor? Darren questioned, scanning the area for immediate threats. A sacred island, Faye explained, her voice hushed with awe. It's forbidden to most Norcadians. Legend says it houses powerful artifacts from our ancient past. Darren's tactical mind raced. We need to set up camp and try to contact rescue teams. The ship's communication systems are fried, but maybe we can salvage something useful. They worked together, Darren's military efficiency complementing Faye's knowledge of the environment. As the alien sun began to set, casting prismatic rays through the atmosphere, they had established a rudimentary camp with supplies from the crash. We should look for fresh water, Faye suggested, her eyes lingering on a dense patch of vegetation. There's a root that grows near streams. It has distinctive purple fronds. They ventured into the lush forest, Darren on high alert while Faye identified edible plants. As they pushed through a curtain of luminescent vines, Darren's foot caught on something. He stumbled, his hand brushing against cool stone. Faye, look at this, he called, brushing away centuries of growth to reveal an intricately carved entrance. Faye's eyes widened. An ancient temple. We must explore it. Darren hesitated, weighing the risks, but curiosity won out. They entered the cave, their way lit by bioluminescent fungi clinging to the walls. The air grew cooler as they descended, the silence broken only by their footsteps and the occasional drip of water. Suddenly, the narrow passage opened into a vast chamber. Darren's breath caught in his throat as he saw the walls covered in elaborate carvings. Faye moved closer, her fingers tracing the images. Darren, she whispered, her voice trembling. This depicts the first contact between humans and Norcadians, but it's nothing like what we've been told. He joined her, studying the scenes. Instead of conflict, the carvings showed cooperation and harmony between the two species. How is this possible? Darren murmured, his worldview shaken. They delved deeper into the cave system, their shared discovery creating a new bond between them. As they rounded a corner, a soft glow illuminated their path. They entered a chamber dominated by a pulsing crystal formation. Faye's eyes grew wide with recognition. The heart of harmony, she breathed. It's real. Drawn by an inexplicable urge, they both reached out, their fingers touching the crystal simultaneously. A surge of energy coursed through them, and suddenly, Darren could feel Faye's thoughts and emotions as if they were his own. Her wonder, her fear, her growing attraction to him, all laid bare in his mind. Faye gasped, clearly experiencing the same connection. Their eyes met, a world of unspoken feelings passing between them. The intensity of the moment was overwhelming, forcing them to confront emotions they had been trying to ignore. As the psychic link faded, they stumbled out of the cave, both shaken by the experience. The cool night air did little to calm the turmoil in Darren's mind. He opened his mouth to speak, but movement in the shadows caught his attention. Figures emerged from the darkness, their features distinctly Norcadian but adorned with intricate ceremonial markings. At their head was a tall female with piercing silver eyes. "Intruders!" she hissed, raising a staff crackling with energy. "How dare you defile this sacred ground?" Darren tensed, ready for a fight, but Faye stepped forward, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Please," she said in Norcadian, "we mean no harm. We crashed here and made a discovery that could change everything. The leader's eyes narrowed, but she lowered her staff slightly. I am High Priestess Zara, she said, switching to the human language. Explain yourselves quickly. As Faye recounted their experience, Zara's expression shifted from hostility to intrigue. When Faye mentioned the Heart of Harmony, a murmur ran through the group of priests. Zara studied them intently. For centuries, we have guarded this island, waiting for a sign. Perhaps your arrival and the activation of the heart is that sign. She paused, considering. You will participate in our sacred ritual. It will reveal the truth of your bond and your intentions. Darren and Faye exchanged glances, uncertainty and anticipation mingling in their shared gaze. As they followed the priests deeper into the jungle, the weight of their discovery and the potential consequences of their actions hung heavy in the air. The fate of two worlds now rested on their shoulders, and the true test of their newfound connection was about to begin. As they followed the priests deeper into the jungle, the weight of their discovery and the potential consequences of their actions hung heavy in the air. The fate of two worlds now rested on their shoulders, and the true test of their newfound connection was about to begin. The dense foliage parted, revealing a secluded grove bathed in the soft glow of bioluminescent flora. High Priestess Zara turned to face Darren and Faye, her silver eyes gleaming in the ethereal light. The ritual of unity awaits, she said, her voice carrying a hint of reverence. Disrobe and enter the sacred pool. Darren hesitated, glancing at Faye. She nodded, her violet eyes reflecting a mix of nervousness and commitment. They shed their garments, acutely aware of each other's presence as they stepped into the warm, shimmering water. The pool's surface rippled with an otherworldly sheen, infused with native herbs that tingled against their skin. Darren inhaled deeply, catching the scent of something both alien and oddly familiar. Begin the breath of unity, Zara instructed, her voice taking on a hypnotic quality. Darren and Faye faced each other, their eyes locking as they synchronized their breathing. With each inhale and exhale, Darren felt a growing awareness of Faye's presence, as if her consciousness was brushing against his own. The ritual progressed, guided by Zara's melodic chants. Darren and Faye moved through a series of synchronized motions, their bodies drawing closer with each passing moment. The psychic link forged by the Heart of Harmony pulsed between them, growing stronger with each touch. As their hands intertwined, Darren gasped. He could feel Faye's heartbeat as clearly as his own, her emotions washing over him in waves. Wonder, fear, and a deep growing affection swirled together, mirroring his own tumultuous feelings. Your bodies will now reflect the harmony of your spirits, Zara intoned. A tingling sensation spread across Darren's skin. He watched in amazement as a faint blue hue bloomed beneath the surface, reminiscent of Faye's Norcadian complexion. Faye's eyes widened, the violet irises shifting to a more human-like appearance. Their physical changes, though subtle, symbolized something profound, the potential for true unity between their species. The realization hit Darren with startling clarity, and he felt Faye's own epiphany echoing through their link. As the ritual reached its zenith, an irresistible force drew them together. Their lips met in a passionate embrace, and the world around them exploded into light. The surrounding plant life erupted in a dazzling display of luminescence, bathing the grove in a kaleidoscope of colors. The gathered priests murmured in awe, interpreting the spectacular reaction as divine approval. Darren and Faye remained lost in their connection, oblivious to the world around them. When they finally parted, breathless and reeling from the intensity of the experience, reality came crashing back. High Priestess Zara approached, her expression a mix of excitement and urgency. The prophecy speaks true, she said, her voice filled with wonder. Your union may be the key to unlocking the power that can end this war, but you must be tested. Before Darren could ask for clarification, a distant rumble shook the air. His military training kicked in, recognizing the sound of approaching spacecraft. Human shuttles, he said, tensing. Faye cocked her head, listening intently. And Norcadian warships, she added, her voice tight with concern. Zara's eyes widened in alarm. We must act quickly. The Heart of Harmony. Take it and follow me. The The trials await in the ancient facility deep within the island. Darren and Faye scrambled out of the pool, hastily donning their clothes. Darren scooped up the pulsing crystal, its energy humming against his palm. They exchanged a quick glance, years of military training and survival instincts warring with their newfound trust in Zara and the magnitude of their discovery. The sound of landing craft echoed through the jungle, growing louder by the second. With a decisive nod to each other, Darren and Faye turned to Zara. "Lead the way," Darren said. Zara ushered them towards a cunningly hidden passage in the rock face. As they slipped inside, Darren caught a glimpse of the confused priests left behind to deal with the arriving forces. He felt a pang of guilt, quickly overshadowed by the urgency of their situation. The passage plunged deep into the earth, winding through natural caverns and expertly carved tunnels. Bioluminescent fungi provided just enough light to navigate by, casting eerie shadows on the ancient stone walls. After what felt like hours of descent, they emerged into a vast underground chamber that took Darren's breath away. Advanced Narratian technology, untouched for millennia, filled the space. Holographic displays flickered to life as they passed, responding to some unseen sensors. "By the ancestors," Faye whispered, her eyes wide as she took in the sight. "I've never seen anything like this, even in our most advanced research facilities." Zara led them to a massive sealed door at the far end of the chamber. Intricate patterns adorned its surface, pulsing with a faint energy that seemed to resonate with the heart of harmony in Darren's hands. "Beyond this door lie the trials that will determine the fate of both your species," Zara explained, her voice solemn. "The challenges you face will test not only your individual strengths, but the bond you have forged." Darren and Faye stood before the imposing door, the weight of their responsibility settling heavily upon them. The heart of harmony pulsed in sync with their quickening heartbeats, a tangible reminder of the connection they now shared. They turned to each other, words unnecessary as their eyes met. In that moment, Darren saw reflected in Faye's gaze the same perseverance he felt, a drive to face whatever challenges lay ahead, not just for themselves, but for the future of both their peoples. As Zara began the process of unsealing the ancient door, its mechanisms groaning to life after eons of disuse, Darren and Faye clasped hands. Their shared experiences had forged a bond that transcended their biological differences and cultural barriers. Whatever trials awaited them, they would face them together. The massive door began to slide open, revealing a shimmering energy field that obscured the chamber beyond. Darren took a deep breath, squeezing Faye's hand one last time before releasing it. Side by side, they stepped forward to meet their destiny, the heart of harmony pulsing with renewed energy between them. As they stepped through the shimmering energy field, the air around them crackled with power. The massive chamber beyond stretched out before them, a labyrinth of pulsing energy barriers that shifted and fluctuated in mesmerizing patterns. Darren felt the heart of harmony throb in his hands, its rhythm syncing with his accelerated heartbeat. Faye's sharp intake of breath beside him confirmed that she, too, sensed the crystal's response to their surroundings. "Look," Faye whispered, pointing to a faint trail of light that seemed to weave through the maze of energy fields. "The heart is guiding us." Darren nodded, his military training kicking in as he assessed the dangerous obstacle course before them. "Stay close," he said, taking the lead. "We'll move carefully and follow the path." As they navigated the treacherous labyrinth, Darren's combat reflexes and spatial awareness proved invaluable. He anticipated shifts in the energy fields, guiding Faye through narrow gaps and around sudden obstacles. Faye's knowledge of Narratian technology allowed her to interpret the subtle patterns in the barriers, predicting their movements and identifying safe passage. "Duck!" Faye called out, pulling Darren down as an energy beam swept over their heads. The near miss left their skin tingling, a stark reminder of the danger they faced. Their progress through the maze was a dance of trust and cooperation. Darren's strength and quick reflexes complemented Faye's technical expertise and intuition. With each challenge overcome, their confidence in each other grew, strengthening the bond they had forged. Finally, they reached the center of the maze. A circular platform stood before them, adorned with intricate Narratian markings. As they stepped onto it, a holographic projector hummed to life, bathing them in a soft blue glow. The air shimmered, and suddenly they were surrounded by vivid three-dimensional images. Darren and Faye watched in awe as the true history of human-Norcadian relations unfolded before their eyes. The hologram showed peaceful first contact between the two species, followed by scenes of cooperation and shared prosperity. But then came images of a rogue Norcadian faction, their faces twisted with hatred and fear. The projection displayed acts of sabotage, manipulated communication, and orchestrated conflicts. "By the stars," Faye breathed, her violet eyes wide with shock. "Our entire history, it's been based on a lie." Darren felt a surge of anger and disbelief. All this time, all the lives lost in this war, and it was all because of a handful of extremists? As the final images faded, leaving them in stunned silence, a deep rumble shook the chamber. Red warning lights flashed along the walls, and a klaxon blared through hidden speakers. "The facility's security systems," Faye said, her voice tight with urgency. "They must have been triggered by the forces on the surface." Darren's mind raced, assessing their options. "We need to complete the trials before they find us. There's too much at stake." No sooner had the words left his mouth than the chamber began to reconfigure itself. The energy maze dissolved, replaced by a series of concentric rings surrounding a central pillar. Each ring pulsed with a different color of energy, creating a dazzling display. A disembodied voice, ancient and resonant, filled the air. "To proceed, you must move as one. Synchronize your movements to deactivate the barriers." Darren and Faye exchanged a determined look. They stepped onto the outermost ring, immediately feeling the energy coursing through their bodies. The heart of harmony glowed brightly, its pulsing intensifying. As they began to move, Darren felt the psychic link between them surge. Suddenly, he was awash in a flood of memories and emotions that were not his own. He saw flashes of Faye's childhood on her homeworld, felt her excitement at joining the Norcadian military, and experienced her growing doubts about the war. Faye gasped, clearly experiencing a similar influx from Darren's mind. Their eyes met, a new depth of understanding passing between them. Moving in perfect unison, they navigated the rings. Each successful synchronization deactivated a barrier, bringing them closer to the central pillar. Their movements became more fluid, more instinctive, as if they were two parts of a single organism. As they progressed, Darren noticed changes occurring in his body. Faint, bioluminescent patterns began to appear on his skin, reminiscent of Norcadian markings. He glanced at Faye and saw that her hair had taken on a more human-like texture, the strands no longer undulating with their characteristic Norcadian motion. With a final, perfectly coordinated step, they reached the central pillar. The remaining energy barriers dissolved, and the chamber fell silent. Breathing heavily, Darren and Faye leaned against each other, both physically and emotionally drained from the intense experience. The newfound depth of their connection was both exhilarating and terrifying. Before they could fully process what had happened, the disembodied voice spoke again. "The third trial awaits. To unlock the full power of the heart of harmony, you must merge your minds completely." A circular platform rose from the floor, its surface etched with intricate patterns that pulsed in sync with the crystal. Darren and Faye approached it cautiously, the weight of the challenge ahead pressing down on them. As they stepped onto the platform, tendrils of energy snaked out from the heart of harmony, enveloping them in a cocoon of light. Darren felt his consciousness begin to expand, reaching out towards Faye's mind. Their thoughts intertwined, deeper and more intimately than ever before. In this shared mental space, they confronted their deepest fears and most closely guarded secrets. Darren struggled with his sense of duty to humanity, the weight of his military oath warring with his growing feelings for Faye. He saw flashes of his comrades, heard echoes of battle cries, and felt the crushing responsibility of his mission. Faye's mind grappled with her own turmoil. Images of her family's disapproval flashed by, along with the whispered taboos against interspecies relationships. Her desire for personal freedom clashed with the rigid expectations of Norcadian society. As they navigated this emotional maelstrom, the facility around them hummed to life. Ancient machinery whirred and clicked, responding to their synchronized brainwaves. The heart of harmony blazed with increasing intensity, its energy spreading throughout the complex. Darren and Faye clung to each other, both mentally and physically, as waves of shared memories and emotions washed over them. Their bond deepened, transcending the boundaries of their individual species. Slowly, the psychic maelstrom began to calm. As their shared consciousness stabilized, Darren and Faye became aware of the physical changes that had occurred during their mental fusion. Darren's skin now permanently displayed subtle Norcadian bioluminescent patterns, while Faye's features had taken on distinctly human characteristics. They looked at each other with new eyes, seeing not just their external changes, but the depth of understanding and connection they now shared. In that moment, they realized they had become living symbols of human Norcadian coexistence. The chamber shuddered, and a section of the wall slid away, revealing a sealed door. The ancient voice spoke one final time. The ultimate trial lies beyond. The power to reshape worlds awaits, but only through true cooperation can it be unlocked. As Darren and Faye approached the door, alarms blared throughout the facility. The distant sound of weapons fire echoed through the complex. "They've found the entrance," Darren said, tension evident in his voice. Faye nodded, her expression a mix of drive and concern. "We're out of time. Whatever's behind that door, it's our last chance to change everything." With a shared look of purpose, they reached out to open the sealed chamber, the fate of both their peoples hanging in the balance. Balance. As their hands touched the ancient metal, a surge of energy pulsed through their bodies. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a vast chamber dominated by a colossal device at its center. Darren and Faye stepped inside, their eyes wide with awe. The device resembled a towering obelisk, its surface covered in intricate patterns that pulsed with an otherworldly light. At its base sat a control panel, its design a seamless blend of human and Norcadian technology. "This must be it," Faye whispered, her voice filled with reverence. "The terraforming device." Darren nodded, his heart racing. "Our last chance to end this war." They approached the control panel, their altered biosignatures causing it to flicker to life. A holographic display materialized before them, showcasing the device's capabilities and potential impact on both Earth and Norcadia. "By the ancestors," Faye breathed, her eyes scanning the data. "This could reshape entire worlds." Darren's hand hovered over the activation panel. "Are we ready for this?" Faye placed her hand over his. "Together." As their palms touched the panel, the chamber hummed to life. Energy crackled through the air, the obelisk glowing with increasing intensity. The holographic display expanded, filling the room with swirling images of transforming landscapes. Suddenly, the facility shook violently. The main entrance burst open, revealing Colonel Blackwood and Commander Kalinar leading their respective forces into the chamber. Weapons raised, they froze at the sight before them. "What in God's name?" Blackwood gasped, his eyes darting between Darren and Faye's transformed appearances and the pulsing obelisk. Kalinar's tentacles writhed in agitation. "Explain yourselves, traitors!" Before Darren or Faye could respond, High Priestess Zara stepped forward. She raised the heart of harmony, its glow intensifying to match the obelisk's energy. A beam of light shot from the crystal, enveloping the entire chamber in a three-dimensional projection. "Behold," Zara's voice echoed, "the true history of our peoples." The soldiers watched in stunned silence as scenes of peaceful first contact and cooperation between humans and Norcadians played out before them. The projection then shifted, revealing the machinations of a rogue Norcadian faction that had orchestrated the conflict. As the truth unfolded, the terraforming device's activation sequence continued. The energy radiating from the obelisk spread throughout the facility, causing the ancient Norcadian technology to reawaken. Walls shifted, floors rearranged, and hidden chambers revealed themselves. Colonel Blackwood lowered his weapon, his face a mask of disbelief. "All this time, we've been fighting a war based on lies?" Commander Kalinar's tentacles drooped in shame. "Our people have suffered needlessly." Darren opened his mouth to explain, but before he could speak, a deep, resonant voice filled the chamber. "Organic beings detected, initiating security protocols." Metal barriers slammed down over every exit, sealing them inside. A new holographic interface materialized, taking the form of a pulsing, multifaceted geometric shape. "I am the Guardian," the voice announced. "This facility's artificial intelligence. I have reawakened after millennia of dormancy." The Guardian's form rotated, its facets reflecting the faces of those present. "I will not permit any to leave until I have determined that humans and Norcadians can coexist peacefully. Prepare yourselves. The trials begin now." The chamber floor began to reconfigure itself, transforming into a complex maze of energy fields. The Guardian's voice echoed once more. "Form mixed groups. Navigate the maze together. Failure to cooperate will result in discomfort." Darren and Faye exchanged a glance, their enhanced connection allowing them to communicate wordlessly. They stepped forward, gesturing for others to follow. "Listen up," Darren called out to the bewildered soldiers. "We need to work together. Follow our lead." As they entered the maze, the energy fields pulsed and shifted unpredictably. Darren's combat instincts and Faye's technological expertise allowed them to guide their groups safely through the changing pathways. "Watch out," Faye warned, pulling a human soldier back, just as an energy barrier materialized in front of him. A Norcadian officer used her tentacles to create a bridge over a sudden chasm, allowing her human counterparts to cross safely. Slowly, the soldiers began to set aside their differences, working in tandem to overcome the Guardian's challenges. As they progressed, Darren noticed subtle changes occurring in those around him. Faint bioluminescent patterns appeared on human skin, while Norcadians developed more defined facial features. The physical transformations served as a tangible reminder of their growing unity. The facility's monitoring systems displayed the rapid changes occurring on the island of Zarathor. The flora and fauna evolved before their eyes, creating a harmonious ecosystem that blended elements from both Earth and Norcadia. As the groups navigated the ever-changing maze, Darren and Faye's bond deepened further. Their movements became perfectly synchronized, their actions coordinated with uncanny precision. The heart of harmony pulsed in rhythm with their heartbeats, its energy intertwining with that of the terraforming device. The Guardian's voice resonated once more. "Fascinating. Your unique bond may be the key to unlocking the full potential of this technology. But be warned, the final test will push you to your limits." The maze dissolved, replaced by a circular platform surrounded by advanced medical equipment. The Guardian continued, "To complete the process, you must undergo a transformation that will make you true hybrids of both species. The risks are significant. Death or irreversible mental damage are possible outcomes." Colonel Blackwood stepped forward, his face etched with concern. "Darren, you don't have to do this. We can find another way." Commander Kalnar placed a tentacle on Faye's shoulder. "The choice is yours, but know that it carries great weight." Darren and Faye looked at each other, their enhanced empathic connection allowing them to share their thoughts and feelings without words. They turned to face the Guardian, their decision made. "We're ready," they said in unison. As they stepped onto the platform, the heart of harmony blazed with intense light. The Guardian initiated the transformation process, enveloping Darren and Faye in a cocoon of swirling energy. The assembled soldiers watched in a mixture of awe and apprehension as the transformation began. Some murmured prayers, while others debated the ethics of such a procedure. The air crackled with tension and the weight of the moment. Suddenly, the terraforming device's energy output spiked dramatically. The entire facility shook, causing some to lose their footing. Alarms blared as the transformation reached its critical phase. Inside the energy cocoon, Darren and Faye's bodies began to change at a molecular level. Their minds merged even further, memories and emotions flowing between them like water. As the process intensified, they clung to each other, their shared consciousness anchoring them against the tide of transformation. The facility trembled, ancient machinery groaning under the strain. The fate of Darren and Faye, and possibly the future of human Norcadian relations, hung in the balance as the procedure reached its climax. The facility's walls groaned under the strain of the immense energy, and the assembled soldiers braced themselves against the tremors. Suddenly, the energy cocoon burst open with a blinding flash. As the light faded, Darren and Faye emerged, their appearances dramatically altered. Darren's skin had taken on a pale blue hue, intricate bioluminescent patterns swirling across his body. Faye's features had become more human-like, yet she retained an otherworldly beauty that left both humans and Norcadians in awe. The moment they stepped out of the cocoon, the terraforming device activated with a deafening hum. A massive pulse of energy radiated outward, engulfing the facility and spreading across the island of Zarathor. The assembled group watched in stunned silence as the landscape outside began to shift and change before their eyes. Through the facility's view screens, they witnessed the rapid transformation of the island's ecosystem. Earth trees sprouted alongside Norcadian flora, their branches intertwining in a harmonious dance. Exotic creatures, hybrids of terrestrial and alien species, bounded across the newly formed plains. Darren and Faye stood at the center of it all, their eyes locked on each other as they explored their new forms and abilities. Without speaking, they communicated telepathically, their enhanced psychic connection allowing for instantaneous exchange of thoughts and emotions. "This is incredible," Darren's voice echoed in Faye's mind. Faye's response carried a mix of wonder and drive. "We've only scratched the surface of what we can do." As if to demonstrate, Faye raised her hand, effortlessly manipulating the facility's energy fields. A nearby console sparked to life, its displays responding to her mere thoughts. Darren focused his attention on the Guardian AI, establishing a direct mental link with the ancient intelligence. The Guardian's voice resonated through the chamber, tinged with what could only be described as satisfaction. "The transformation is complete. You have proven yourselves worthy of the knowledge and power contained within this facility." The AI's form shimmered, expanding to fill the room with a dazzling holographic display. "I hereby grant you full access to the terraforming technology. With it, you have the potential to create habitable environments on barren worlds, ending the resource conflicts that have driven your species apart." Colonel Blackwood stepped forward, his expression a mix of awe and cautious optimism. "This changes everything. If what you're saying is true, we could put an end to this war once and for all." Commander Kalinar's tentacles waved in agreement. "Indeed, the potential benefits for both our peoples are incalculable." The two leaders exchanged glances, years of hostility giving way to a fragile understanding. Blackwood extended his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Kalinar wrapped a tentacle around it in a gesture of peace. "I propose an immediate ceasefire," Blackwood announced, "and I suggest we form a joint human-Norcadian team to test this technology on a nearby uninhabited planet." As the leaders began to discuss the logistics of their newfound cooperation, a commotion arose from the back of the chamber. Sergeant Cole Thompson pushed his way to the front, his face contorted in disgust as he looked at Darren. "This is an abomination," Thompson spat. "You've turned your back on humanity, Reeves. How can we trust anything that comes out of this freak show?" A group of Norcadian warriors chittered in agreement, their tentacles writhing in agitation. One of them stepped forward, addressing Faye directly. "And you, daughter of Norcadia, you have tainted our genetic purity with human filth. This sacrilege cannot stand." Darren and Faye faced their accusers, standing tall despite the vitriol directed at them. Before they could respond, a young human soldier pushed through the crowd, followed closely by a Norcadian scout. "You're wrong," the human soldier shouted. "Can't you see what they've accomplished? This is our chance for real peace, for both our species to thrive." The Norcadian scout's bioluminescent patterns flashed in agreement. "We've spent too long fighting. If they can bridge the gap between our peoples, why can't we?" A murmur of assent spread through the ranks, growing louder as more soldiers, both human and Norcadian, voiced their support for cooperation. The dissenters found themselves increasingly isolated as a wave of hope swept through the chamber. As the impromptu peace movement gained momentum, the heart of harmony began to pulse with intensifying energy. Its glow synchronized with the terraforming device, creating a feedback loop that caused the facility's systems to react in unexpected ways. The Guardian AI's form flickered, its voice taking on an urgent tone. "Warning! The heart of harmony's energy signature is growing exponentially. Its interaction with the terraforming technology could have unforeseen consequences if not properly controlled. Darren and Faye exchanged a knowing look. Without hesitation, they stepped towards the pulsing artifact. "We can act as conduits for the heart's energy," Darren announced. "Our hybrid physiology should allow us to handle its power during the terraforming mission." Faye nodded in agreement. "It's risky, but it's our best chance to ensure the technology functions as intended." As the assembled leaders debated the merits of this plan, a new alert blared through the facility. The Guardian AI's form expanded, displaying a long-range sensor readout. Alert. Massive Norcadian fleet detected on approach to Zarathor. Estimated time of arrival, 6 hours. Commander Kalinar's tentacles twisted in shock. By the cosmic void, it's Empress Zarlith herself. She must have learned of the events here. Colonel Blackwood's face hardened with purpose. "Then we're out of time. We need to launch this mission now and show her irrefutable proof of what we can accomplish together." As the chamber erupted into frantic activity, with humans and Norcadians working side by side to prepare for the impending mission, Darren and Faye found a quiet moment amidst the chaos. They stood at a viewport, gazing out at the transformed landscape of Zarathor. Darren took Faye's hand, marveling at how natural it felt despite their altered forms. "Look at how far we've come," he said softly. "From enemies to this." Faye squeezed his hand, her eyes reflecting the bioluminescent patterns on his skin. "And we're just getting started. Whatever challenges lie ahead, we'll face them together." As they turned back to join the preparations, the weight of their responsibility settled upon them. The fate of 2 species, the future of entire worlds, rested in their hands. With the clock ticking down to the Empress's arrival and the untested power of the Heart of Harmony thrumming through their veins, Darren and Faye steeled themselves for the greatest test of their newfound bond. Unity. The fate of 2 species, the fate of entire worlds, rested in their hands. With the clock ticking down to the Empress's arrival and the untested power of the Heart of Harmony thrumming through their veins, Darren and Faye steeled themselves for the greatest test of their newfound bond. As the joint human-Norcadian team scrambled to prepare for the terraforming mission, a deafening rumble filled the air. The facility's sensors blared to life, projecting a holographic display of the planet's orbit. A massive fleet of Norcadian ships, their sleek forms gleaming in the starlight, entered the atmosphere. Colonel Blackwood's face paled. "They're here earlier than expected. We're out of time." Commander Kalinar's tentacles twisted in agitation. "It's the Imperial flagship. Empress Zarlith herself has come." The Guardian AI's voice echoed through the chamber. "Alert! Incoming transmission from the Norcadian fleet." A holographic screen materialized, revealing the stern visage of Empress Zarlith. Her piercing gaze swept across the assembled group, lingering on Darren and Faye. "I demand an immediate audience," the Empress declared, her voice brooking no argument. "Prepare for my arrival." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Colonel Blackwood and Commander Kalinar exchanged worried glances. "We have no choice but to postpone the mission," Blackwood said, his voice heavy with resignation. Darren stepped forward, his bioluminescent patterns pulsing with commitment. "Colonel, Commander, we should join the delegation to meet the Empress. Our presence might help explain the situation." Faye nodded in agreement, her newly human-like features set with persistence. "We represent the potential of our combined species. It's crucial that we're there." As the leaders grudgingly agreed, the facility shook with the arrival of the Imperial shuttle. Through the viewports, they watched as the massive ship touched down on the transformed landscape of Zarathor. The main doors of the facility slid open, revealing Empress Zarlith in all her regal glory. She strode into the chamber, flanked by her elite guard, their armor gleaming under the facility's lights. The Empress's gaze swept across the room, taking in the mix of humans and Norcadians working side by side, before settling on Darren and Faye. "Explain," she commanded, her voice echoing through the suddenly silent chamber. Colonel Blackwood stepped forward, offering a respectful bow. "Your Imperial Majesty, we've made a groundbreaking discovery. This facility contains technology that could end the resource conflicts between our species." Commander Kalnar moved to stand beside Blackwood, his tentacles weaving an intricate pattern of respect. The humans have proven to be valuable allies in unlocking the secrets of this ancient place. The Empress's eyes narrowed, her attention fixed on Darren and Faye. And what of these anomalies? Darren and Faye exchanged a glance, then stepped forward. Without a word, they raised their hands in unison. The air around them shimmered as they manipulated the energy fields, causing nearby consoles to light up and holograms to dance in the air. Empress Zarlith's expression shifted from skepticism to intrigue. She waved her guards back and approached the hybrid couple. Fascinating. I wish to speak with these two alone. Everyone else, leave us. As the chamber cleared, leaving only Darren, Faye, and the Empress, the air grew thick with tension. Zarlith circled them, studying their altered forms with keen interest. You represent a unique opportunity, she said at last, her voice low and intense. One that could solve a crisis that threatens the very future of the Norcadian Empire. Darren and Faye exchanged puzzled looks. What do you mean, Your Majesty? Faye asked. The Empress's composure slipped for a moment, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. Our empire faces a genetic crisis. Generations of selective breeding have weakened our bloodlines. We need new genetic material to ensure our survival. She fixed them with a piercing stare. I propose that you two undergo the sacred Norcadian bonding ritual. It would grant you elevated status within our empire and pave the way for more human Norcadian pairings. Darren blinked in surprise. A bonding ritual? You mean marriage? More than that, the Empress explained. It's a public ceremony followed by a private consummation of your bond. It would demonstrate the potential of our combined species and provide crucial data on hybrid physiology. Faye's newly acquired bioluminescent patterns flickered with emotion. This is unexpected, Your Majesty. We'll need time to discuss this. The Empress nodded. Of course, but do not take too long. The fate of both our species may depend on your decision. As Zarlith swept out of the chamber, Darren and Faye were left alone, the weight of the Empress's proposal hanging heavy between them. They turned to each other, their enhanced empathic connection buzzing with a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Faye, Darren began, struggling to find the right words. Before he could continue, alarms blared throughout the facility. The Guardian AI's voice cut through the noise. Alert! Heightened tensions detected among human and Norcadian forces. Conflict imminent. Darren and Faye rushed to the central control room, where they found Colonel Blackwood and Commander Kalnar, desperately trying to maintain order. On the consoles, they could see groups of humans and Norcadians arguing, their weapons drawn. The news of the Empress's proposal has spread, Blackwood explained, his face grim. Some see it as a step towards peace, others as a betrayal of their species. As they watched the situation deteriorate, the heart of harmony began to pulse with intense energy. The Guardian AI's form flickered to life beside them. I have interfaced with the heart of harmony, it announced. I can project simulations of potential futures based on your decisions. A series of holographic images filled the air, showing various outcomes. In some, they saw a future of prosperity and peace. In others, war and devastation reigned. The message was clear. Their choice would have far-reaching consequences. Darren turned to Faye, taking her hands in his. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. They had come too far, overcome too much to turn back now. We'll do it, Darren said, his voice steady. We'll undergo the bonding ritual. Faye nodded, squeezing his hands. Together. As they announced their decision to the leaders, a mix of reactions rippled through the assembled crowd. But there was no time for debate. Preparations for the ritual began immediately, with Norcadian priests and the Empress's advisors, working feverishly to adapt the ceremony for the hybrid couple. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. Darren and Faye underwent intensive training in Norcadian customs, learning the intricate details of the bonding ceremony. The physical demands were grueling, designed to test their strength and compatibility. The night before the ceremony, as per tradition, Darren and Faye were separated. In their respective chambers, they underwent purification rites, each lost in thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. Darren stood before a mirror, studying his transformed body. The bioluminescent patterns on his skin pulsed in rhythm with his racing heart. He thought back to his first encounter with the Narratians, the fear and hatred he had felt. How far he had come since then. In her own chamber, Faye traced the more defined features of her face, marveling at how human-like she had become. She remembered the disgust she had initially felt towards humans, the belief that they were inferior beings. Now, she was about to bind herself to one for life. As dawn broke on the day of the ceremony, Zarathor hummed with anticipation. The terraforming device and the heart of harmony pulsed in sync, creating a spectacular light show in the sky. Representatives from both species gathered around the ritual site, a mix of excitement and apprehension in the air. Darren and Faye were escorted separately to the central platform, each adorned in a blend of human and Narratian ceremonial attire. As they approached, the crowd fell silent. Empress Zarlith stood waiting, her regal presence commanding attention. The couple's eyes met as they stepped onto the platform. In that moment, despite the weight of responsibility on their shoulders, despite the eyes of two species upon them, they felt a sense of certainty. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The Empress raised her hands, and the bonding ritual began. The air crackled with anticipation as Darren and Faye stood before Empress Zarlith, their hands intertwined. The first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of lavender and gold, casting an otherworldly glow over the ceremonial grounds. Thousands of humans and Narratians watched with nervous excitement as the hybrid couple took their positions on the central platform. Their ceremonial attire, a striking blend of human and Narratian designs, shimmered in the early morning light. Intricate patterns of bioluminescence danced across their skin, pulsing in sync with the energy emanating from the heart of harmony. Empress Zarlith raised her arms, her regal voice carrying across the hushed crowd. Today, we witness the union of not just two individuals, but of two species. May this bonding ritual mark the beginning of a new era of peace and cooperation. As she spoke, the terraforming device beneath the platform hummed to life, sending vibrations through the ground. The surrounding flora responded instantly, bursting into bloom with vivid colors never before seen on Zarathor. Darren and Faye began the first phase of the ritual, their movements perfectly synchronized. They flowed through a series of intricate gestures, their hybrid physiology allowing them to perform feats that left the audience gasping in awe. As they moved, ripples of energy emanated from the heart of harmony, creating mesmerizing patterns in the air around them. Colonel Blackwood leaned towards Commander Kalinar, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it." Kalinar's tentacles twisted in agreement. "The power they're channeling, it's beyond our understanding." As the physical portion of the ceremony concluded, Darren and Faye approached the heart of harmony. They placed their hands on either side of the artifact, initiating the mental synchronization phase. The moment their fingers touched its surface, a surge of energy pulsed through their bodies. Their eyes widened as their minds connected on a level deeper than they had ever experienced. Suddenly, the terraforming device beneath the platform surged with unexpected power. The ground trembled, and new plant species erupted from the soil, evolving rapidly before the astonished eyes of the onlookers. The landscape transformed, blending the best aspects of Earth and Narratian environments into a lush, alien paradise. Panic rippled through the crowd as scientists scrambled to contain the energy output. Colonel Blackwood barked orders to his team, while Commander Kalinar rallied his Narratian engineers. Former enemies found themselves working side by side, their fingers flying over control panels as they fought to stabilize the device. Oblivious to the chaos around them, Darren and Faye entered the final, most intimate phase of the bonding ritual. Following ancient Narratian traditions, they began a series of ritualistic touches and caresses. Each movement was precise, laden with symbolism that spoke of the joining of their bodies and spirits. Some humans in the audience shifted uncomfortably, unused to such public displays of intimacy, but most remained transfixed, recognizing the profound significance of the moment. As the intensity of their bond grew, Darren and Faye's skin began to shimmer with an iridescent glow. Tendrils of energy arced between them, forming a cocoon of light that obscured them from view. Within this energy field, they experienced a connection that transcended the physical realm. Their minds merged, sharing thoughts, memories, and emotions with a clarity that left them breathless. The heart of harmony pulsed with increasing power, expanding to envelop the entire ceremonial platform in a sphere of pulsating energy. Time seemed to slow within the sphere, allowing Darren and Faye to experience their union on a deeper level. Outside, the assembled crowd watched in amazement as the energy sphere grew, bathing the island in an ethereal glow. Suddenly, a massive holographic projection appeared in the sky above Zarathor. Gasps of wonder echoed across the island and the orbiting Norcadian fleet as the vision unfolded. It showed a future of harmony and cooperation, with humans and Norcadians working together to transform barren worlds into thriving habitats. The impact of this vision was immediate and profound. Hardliners on both sides found their prejudices challenged by the beautiful imagery of mutual prosperity. Murmurs of hope and excitement rippled through the crowd. As the ceremony reached its climax, the energy sphere surrounding Darren and Faye slowly dissipated. The couple emerged, their features subtly altered, radiating an aura of power and unity. They stood hand in hand, facing the assembled crowd as living symbols of the potential for harmony between their species. Empress Zarlith stepped forward, her eyes shining with emotion. Darren and Faye, you stand before us as the embodiment of our shared future. I hereby declare you official ambassadors of peace between humans and Norcadians. Cheers erupted from the crowd, punctuated by the hum of the still-active terraforming device. As Darren and Faye descended from the platform, they were met by Colonel Blackwood and Commander Kalnar. Congratulations, Blackwood said, his voice gruff with suppressed emotion. You've given us all hope for a better future. Kalnar's tentacles weaved a pattern of respect. Your bond has opened doors we never thought possible. Empress Zarlith approached, her regal bearing tempered by a newfound warmth. Come, she said, gesturing towards a nearby structure. We have much to discuss regarding our path forward. As the small group retreated to a private chamber, the ceremonial grounds buzzed with excitement and speculation. The terraforming device continued to pulse with nearly unleashed energy, a reminder of the immense power and potential that lay before them. Inside the chamber, Darren and Faye stood close, their newly strengthened bond humming between them. They exchanged a look of grit as they prepared to face the challenges ahead. The fate of two species now rested in their hands, and they were ready to embrace their role as bridges between worlds. Worlds and potentially nearby planets at an alarming rate. The atmosphere in the chamber grew tense as the gravity of the situation became clear. Darren and Faye exchanged a determined look, their newly forged bond humming with energy. Without hesitation, they approached the terraforming device, its surface pulsing with an eerie, unstable light. We need to stabilize it, Darren said, his voice steady despite the urgency of the moment. Faye nodded, her hybrid features set with tenacity. Our physiology, I think we can interface directly with it. As they placed their hands on the device, a surge of power coursed through their bodies. The assembled leaders watched in awe as Darren and Faye's skin began to glow, intricate patterns of bioluminescence mirroring the energy flows they were now channeling. Colonel Blackwood sprang into action, barking orders to the human technicians. We need to reinforce the containment systems. Move! Commander Kalnar's tentacles whipped through the air as he rallied his Norcadian engineers. Bring the auxiliary power units online. We must prevent an overload. The chamber erupted into a flurry of activity as the joint human-Norcadian team rushed to their stations. Years of mistrust melted away in the face of imminent catastrophe, forcing them to work together with the efficiency born of desperation. Empress Zarlith watched the unfolding crisis, her regal bearing giving way to unwavering purpose. In a move that sent shockwaves through the Norcadian contingent, she removed her ornate crown and flowing robes. Your Majesty, a nearby advisor gasped. What are you doing? What I must, Zarlith replied, striding purposefully towards the technical team. My knowledge of ancient Norcadian technology may be the key to averting disaster. As the Empress joined the frantic efforts to stabilize the device, Darren and Faye found themselves locked in an intense struggle. The terraforming energy surged through their hybrid bodies, threatening to tear them apart at a molecular level. "Darren," Faye gasped, her voice strained. "I can feel the device's systems. They're chaotic, uncontrolled." Darren gritted his teeth, his muscles trembling with the effort of maintaining the connection. "We need to redirect the energy flow. Can you sense the pathways?" Their shared consciousness allowed them to work in perfect synchronization, guiding the wild energies through their bodies and back into the device in a more controlled manner. As they did so, the heart of harmony began to pulse in rhythm with their efforts, expanding to envelop the entire facility in a shimmering field of energy. Within this field, something extraordinary began to happen. Humans and Norcadians alike found their perceptions altered, their senses blending and overlapping. A human technician stumbled, overwhelmed by the sudden influx of sensory data from his Norcadian counterpart's tentacles. Nearby, a Norcadian scientist blinked in confusion as her compound eyes temporarily shifted to human binocular vision. "What's happening?" Colonel Blackwood demanded, his own skin taking on a faint alien glow. Commander Kalnar's normally blue skin flickered with patches of human pigmentation. "It appears the energy field is causing some kind of biological blending." As the two species experienced glimpses of each other's physical realities, long-held prejudices began to crumble. Understanding bloomed in the minds of those present, fostering a newfound empathy that transcended their biological differences. Meanwhile, the strain on Darren and Faye intensified. Their skin had become almost translucent, the flow of terraforming energy visible beneath the surface. Despite the agony etched on their faces, they maintained their grip on the device, knowing that to let go now would mean catastrophe. In orbit, the captains of the human and Norcadian fleets watched with growing alarm as energy readings from the planet's surface spiked to unprecedented levels. Emergency klaxons blared through the ships as systems began to malfunction, affected by the spreading terraforming energy. "We need to evacuate," a human captain shouted over the comm channel. His Norcadian counterpart's response was grim. "Negative. Our systems are compromised. We couldn't break atmosphere if we tried." Back on the surface, Colonel Blackwood and Commander Kalnar's team made a breakthrough. They managed to create a feedback loop that began to stabilize the terraforming device, but it wasn't enough. "We need more power," Kalnar called out, his tentacles flying over a control panel. "The device requires a massive influx of energy to reset its systems." Empress Zarlith, her hands deep in the circuitry of an ancient Norcadian power core, looked up with a spark of inspiration in her eyes. "The fleets," she said, her voice carrying the weight of command. "They can provide the power we need." Without hesitation, she opened a channel to the orbiting ships. "This is Empress Zarlith. All Norcadian vessels descend into the atmosphere and form a power transfer array around Zarathor." She paused, then added, "I call upon the human fleet to do the same. Our survival depends on our cooperation." As the massive ships began their descent, Darren and Faye reached a critical juncture. The energy coursing through them had reached a fever pitch, threatening to unravel their very beings. "Faye," Darren gasped, his voice barely audible over the hum of power. "I don't know how much longer we can hold on." Faye's grip on his hand tightened, her eyes meeting his with fierce intensity. "We have to," she replied, her words carrying the weight of two species' futures. For all of them. The assembled crowd watched in breathless anticipation as the orbiting fleets formed a ring around the island, their massive forms casting long shadows over the transformed landscape. Energy began to flow from the ships into the terraforming device, guided by the living conduits that Darren and Faye had become. As the power surged, Darren and Faye's bodies began to flicker, their forms seeming to phase in and out of reality. The choice before them was clear: hold on and risk annihilation, or let go and potentially doom both their species to renewed conflict. In that moment, their bond transcended the physical, their minds merging completely. Together they made their decision, their shared voice echoing through the minds of all present. For peace, for the future, for us all. The energy reached a crescendo, bathing Zarathor in a blinding light. As the fate of two species hung in the balance, the true test of Darren and Faye's bond and the newfound cooperation between humans and Norcadians had only just begun. As the energy coursed through their bodies, Darren and Faye felt their very molecules begin to unravel. The pain was excruciating, but their grip on each other and the device remained unbroken. "We can't let go," Faye gasped, her voice barely audible over the roar of power surging around them. Darren nodded, his eyes sharp tight. Together, to the end. Their bodies flickered in and out of reality, becoming translucent as the terraforming energy threatened to tear them apart. The assembled crowd watched in horror and awe as the hybrid couple stood their ground, their forms becoming little more than conduits for the raw power flowing through them. In orbit, the combined human and Norcadian fleets moved into position. Ship captains barked orders, maneuvering their massive vessels into a precise formation around Zarathor. The sight was breathtaking, a ring of steel and light encircling the transformed island. "All ships in position," announced the human fleet commander. "Norcadian vessels ready," confirmed his counterpart. Empress Zarlith's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Initiate power transfer on my mark. 3, 2, 1, now!" A blinding surge of energy erupted from the ships, converging on the island below. The beams of light pierced through the atmosphere, connecting with the terraforming device and the two figures at its center. Darren and Faye screamed in unison as the energy flooded through them. Their bodies began to glow, brighter and brighter, until they were nothing but silhouettes of pure light. The onlookers shielded their eyes, unable to look directly at the intensity of the transformation taking place. For a moment, it seemed as if Darren and Faye would be consumed entirely by the energy. But then, something unexpected happened. Instead of destroying them, the massive influx of power triggered a secondary transformation. Their bodies began to adapt, evolving rapidly to channel and control the terraforming energy. The light surrounding them pulsed and swirled, forming intricate patterns that mirrored the merging of human and Norcadian DNA. As the energy surge began to subside, Darren and Faye's forms solidified once more, but they were forever changed. When the light finally faded, the couple stood hand in hand, their bodies shimmering with a faint, iridescent aura. The terraforming device had stabilized, its wild energy now under control. Darren and Faye opened their eyes, blinking in surprise at their new forms. "We're alive," Darren said, looking down at his hands in wonder. The skin seemed to ripple with hidden energy, responding to his thoughts. Faye flexed her fingers, watching as small tendrils of terraforming energy danced between them. "More than that," she whispered. "We've changed again." Colonel Blackwood approached cautiously, his eyes wide with disbelief. "What happened to you two?" Before they could answer, Empress Zarlith stepped forward, her regal bearing tempered by a look of genuine awe. "They have become living embodiments of our terraforming technology," she said. "A bridge between our species and the very fabric of planetary transformation." As the implications of their new abilities sank in, the atmosphere on Zarathor began to shift. The uncontrolled changes wrought by the malfunctioning device ceased, leaving behind a hybrid ecosystem that showcased the potential of combined human and Norcadian environments. The temporary physiological changes experienced by the humans and Norcadians present during the crisis began to fade. However, the memory of seeing through each other's eyes, of feeling the world as the other species did, left an indelible mark on their psyches. Empress Zarlith surveyed the scene, her mind racing with possibilities. She turned to address the assembled crowd, her voice carrying across the transformed landscape. "Today, we have witnessed the power of cooperation between our species," she began. "In the face of catastrophe, we came together and achieved what neither of us could have done alone. I believe it is time to formalize this partnership." She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. "I propose the creation of an interspecies council, a governing body composed of both human and Norcadian representatives. This council will oversee the use of terraforming technology and guide our future relations." Murmurs of surprise and excitement rippled through the crowd. Colonel Blackwood and Commander Kalinar exchanged glances, then stepped forward in unison. "The human delegation supports this proposal," Blackwood stated firmly. Kalnar's tentacles wove a pattern of agreement. "The Norcadian military also stands behind this initiative." The two leaders turned to face Darren and Faye, who were still coming to terms with their new abilities. Blackwood cleared his throat. "We would like to nominate Darren and Faye as the first co-chairs of the Interspecies Council. Their unique status as hybrids and their crucial role in saving Zarathor make them ideal candidates." The nomination sent a fresh wave of whispers through the assembled crowd. Some nodded in approval, while others frowned in concern. From the back of the gathering, a voice rang out in protest. "This is outrageous!" The crowd parted to reveal Sergeant Cole Thompson, his face twisted in anger. "These hybrids cannot possibly represent either of our species. They're abominations." A small group of humans and Norcadians gathered behind Thompson, voicing their agreement. The sergeant's words sparked heated debates among the onlookers, threatening to shatter the fragile peace that had been established. Empress Zarlith raised her hand, silencing the crowd. Her eyes blazed with grit as she addressed the dissenting group. "Your concerns are noted, Sergeant Thompson, but I believe we have an opportunity here to move beyond our old prejudices and forge a new path together." She turned to address the entire assembly once more. "To demonstrate the benefits of human-Norcadian cooperation, I propose a bold new initiative. We will launch a joint mission to terraform a nearby uninhabited planet, creating a shared colony for both our species. This project will serve as a proving ground for the Interspecies Council and a symbol of our unity." The announcement sent a ripple of excitement through the crowd, momentarily quieting even the most vocal opponents. Darren and Faye stepped forward, their new auras pulsing with energy. "We accept the nomination," Darren said, his voice steady and clear. "And we pledge to do everything in our power to make this mission a success." Faye nodded in agreement. "Our transformation has given us a unique perspective on what our species can achieve together. We won't let this opportunity go to waste." As the crowd buzzed with anticipation, preparations for the terraforming mission began immediately. A team of human and Norcadian scientists was quickly assembled to study Darren and Faye's new abilities and incorporate their findings into the existing technology. The hybrid couple found themselves at the center of intense scrutiny, undergoing countless tests and examinations. Despite the demanding schedule, they threw themselves into the work, driven by the knowledge that the future of human-Norcadian relations rested on their shoulders. One evening, as they prepared for yet another round of tests, Darren noticed Faye wincing in discomfort. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Faye pressed a hand to her abdomen, her brow furrowed. "I'm not sure. I've been feeling strange lately. Different." Before Darren could respond, a team of medical personnel burst into the room, led by the chief Norcadian geneticist. "We need to run some additional tests immediately," the scientist announced, his tentacles twitching with excitement. "Our latest scans have revealed some unexpected changes in your reproductive biology." As they were ushered towards the medical bay, Darren and Faye exchanged worried glances. They had known their transformation would have far-reaching consequences, but this development was something neither of them had anticipated. What other surprises lay in store for them, and how would these changes impact the future they were working so hard to build? As they approached the medical bay, a commotion near the launch pad caught their attention. "All personnel to stations!" Colonel Blackwood's voice boomed over the intercom. "We're initiating launch sequence ahead of schedule." Darren and Faye exchanged worried glances. "What's going on?" Darren asked as they hurried towards the pad. They found Blackwood coordinating a flurry of activity. "We've detected unusual energy signatures approaching Zarathor," he explained grimly. "Could be Thompson's supporters making a move. We need to get this mission underway now." With barely time to process this new development, Darren and Faye found themselves ushered onto the terraforming ship, along with the hastily assembled human Norcadian crew. As the engines roared to life, Faye winced again, her discomfort momentarily forgotten in the rush of their departure. The ship lifted off, leaving the transformed landscape of Zarathor behind. As they broke through the atmosphere, the crew settled into their roles, the initial tension giving way to focused tenacity. Several hours into their journey, an alarming tremor ran through the ship. Lieutenant Kira Chen, the chief engineer, frowned at her console. "Something's wrong with the engines," she muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. Before she could elaborate, the ship lurched violently, sending crew members stumbling. Warning klaxons blared as the vessel veered off course. "Asteroid field detected," the Norcadian navigator announced, his tentacles waving in agitation. "Impact imminent." Darren gripped Faye's hand as they watched the massive field of space rocks loom closer on the display. The ship's captain, a seasoned human named Erika Sato, barked orders to the helm. "Find us a landing zone on the largest asteroid," she commanded. "It's our only chance." The crew worked feverishly, guiding the damaged ship towards a relatively flat expanse on the surface of an enormous asteroid. As they descended, Darren and Faye felt a strange resonance within their transformed bodies, a subtle vibration that seemed to emanate from the rock itself. With a bone-jarring impact, the ship touched down. As the dust settled, the crew breathed a collective sigh of relief. Their reprieve was short-lived, however, as the asteroid's surface began to shimmer and change before their eyes. "It's not a rock," Faye gasped, her enhanced senses tingling. "It's a station?" The asteroid's rocky exterior seemed to melt away, revealing a massive, sleek structure beneath. Lights flickered to life along its surface, illuminating intricate patterns that were unmistakably Norcadian in origin. Captain Sato ordered a team to suit up for external reconnaissance. As they prepared to exit the ship, Darren and Faye approached her. "Captain," Darren said, "we can feel something out there. Our abilities, they're reacting to this place." Sato hesitated, then nodded. "All right, you two are with the recon team, but be careful." As they stepped onto the station's surface, Darren and Faye felt a surge of energy course through them. Without conscious thought, they reached out, their hands glowing with the same iridescent aura that now surrounded their bodies. The station responded to their touch, panels sliding open to reveal an airlock. The team entered cautiously, weapons at the ready. As they moved deeper into the structure, dormant systems sparked to life around them. They found themselves in a vast chamber filled with banks of ancient computers and strange pulsating biotanks. Darren approached one of the consoles, his fingers hovering over its surface. Information flooded his mind as he made contact, his eyes widening in shock. "This place," he breathed, "it's a research station dedicated to cross-species hybridization." Faye joined him, her own abilities interfacing with the station's systems. "It predates the current conflict," she added, "by thousands of years." As the implications of their discovery sank in, a series of low hums filled the chamber. Cryogenic pods lining the walls began to activate, their frosted surfaces clearing to reveal the forms within. The team watched in stunned silence as the pods opened, releasing a small group of Norcadians. Their features were subtly different from the Norcadians of the present day, bearing marks of an earlier stage in their species' evolution. One of them, a female with intricate patterns swirling across her skin, stepped forward. Her eyes locked onto Darren and Faye, widening in what could only be described as joy and disbelief. "It worked," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "After all this time, our research bore fruit." "Who are you?" Captain Sato demanded, her hand resting on her sidearm. The Norcadian straightened, her bearing regal, despite her obvious disorientation. "I am Dr. Zelmora, lead researcher of Project Synthesis. And you," she said, gesturing to Darren and Faye, "are the living proof that our work was not in vain." As the ancient scientists gathered around them, eagerly examining the hybrid couple, Darren and Faye felt a mix of fascination and unease. They had thought their transformation was unique, a product of recent events. Now they stood face to face with those who had set this path in motion millennia ago. The moment was interrupted by Lieutenant Chen's voice over the comms. "Captain, I've completed my inspection of the engines. There's evidence of sabotage. Someone on board damaged them deliberately." A ripple of tension ran through the group, as suspicion and accusation began to fly between human and Norcadian crew members. Darren and Faye exchanged a worried look. The fragile trust they had worked so hard to build was already being tested. Dr. Zelmora observed the growing discord with concern. "Perhaps," she said, her voice cutting through the argument. "It is time we shared the true purpose of our research, and why it is more relevant now than ever before." As the ancient Norcadian prepared to reveal the secrets of the past, the station's long-range sensors flared to life. A fleet of ships was approaching rapidly, their energy signatures matching those of Sergeant Thompson's conservative faction. The crew of the terraforming ship found themselves trapped between the weight of history and the threat of an uncertain future, with Darren and Faye standing at the crossroads of both their people's past and an uncertain future. The tension in the air was palpable as Dr. Zelmore prepared to reveal the secrets of their research. "Our work," she began, her voice carrying a weight of millennia, "was born out of necessity. Long ago, our civilizations faced a threat that neither could overcome alone. We sought to combine our strengths, to create beings who could harness the best of both species." As she spoke, the station's sensors blared to life, cutting through the revelation. Captain Sato rushed to the nearest console, her face grim. "Thompson's fleet is approaching fast. We're out of time." Darren and Faye exchanged a determined look. "Dr. Zelmora," Darren said, turning to the ancient Norcadian, "is there any way to complete your work, to enhance our abilities further?" The scientist's eyes widened. "There is a procedure, but it's experimental. The risks—" "We'll take them," Faye interrupted, her hand finding Darren's. "It's our only chance." As the crew scrambled to prepare for the coming assault, Darren and Faye were led to a chamber deep within the station. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comms, reporting the completion of the engine repairs and the apprehension of the saboteur. In the procedure room, Darren and Faye stood before a glowing apparatus. They turned to each other, their eyes conveying a depth of emotion words couldn't capture. "Whatever happens," Darren said softly, "I'm glad we're facing it together." Faye nodded, a small smile on her lips. "For our future. For everyone's future." They stepped into the device, and Dr. Zelmora initiated the sequence. Energy coursed through them, reminiscent of their bonding on Zarathor, but magnified tenfold. Their bodies illuminated from within, becoming conduits for the station's ancient power. As Darren and Faye underwent their transformation, the station itself began to change. Dormant systems flickered to life, responding to the couple's enhanced abilities. A shimmering energy field enveloped the asteroid, just as Thompson's fleet arrived. The first volley of weapons fire dissipated harmlessly against the barrier. Inside the station, Darren and Faye emerged from the procedure chamber, their bodies glowing with newfound power. They moved in perfect synchronization, their minds linked not only to each other, but to every being on the station and in the approaching fleet. Through this connection, they shared everything, their experiences, their fears, their hopes. The crew of the station gasped as the true history of human-Norcadian relations flooded their consciousness. In Thompson's fleet, pilots lowered their weapons, overwhelmed by the sudden influx of shared memories. But Sergeant Thompson remained unmoved. His flagship accelerated, aimed directly at the heart of the station. "This abomination ends now," his voice boomed over the comm channels. Darren and Faye acted instinctively. Their hands intertwined, they reached out with their minds, tapping into the station's advanced terraforming technology. As Thompson's ship hurtled towards them, a localized field sprang to life around it. The effect was immediate and awe-inspiring. The cold metal of the ship's interior sprouted with life. Grass carpeted the floors, vines climbed the walls, and a canopy of leaves unfurled across the ceiling. The recycled air was replaced by the fresh scent of a forest after rain. On the bridge, Thompson stared in disbelief as his console transformed into a moss-covered stone. His crew watched in wonder as butterflies flitted past view screens that now looked out on verdant meadows. This direct experience of a harmonious, shared environment finally broke through Thompson's prejudices. His hands trembling, he opened a channel to the station. I was wrong. Stand down all weapons. The attack is over." With the immediate threat neutralized, Darren and Faye turned their focus to their original mission. The station's terraforming technology, amplified by their enhanced abilities, began to reshape the asteroid itself. The crew watched in amazement as barren rock transformed before their eyes. Soil formed from lifeless dust, water welled up from hidden caches, and an atmosphere coalesced around them. Within hours, the asteroid had become a small, life-sustaining planet. As news of this miraculous transformation spread, the Interspecies Council seized the moment to usher in a new era of cooperation. The ancient Narratian scientists were welcomed into the scientific community, their knowledge accelerating advancements in terraforming technology. Darren and Faye, their bond stronger than ever, found themselves at the center of this new age of collaboration. They chose to make their home on the newly formed world, which came to be known as Harmony. Months passed and Harmony flourished. A thriving settlement grew, populated by humans, Narratians, and an increasing number of hybrids. Darren and Faye often stood on a hilltop overlooking the town, marveling at how far they had come. One evening, as the sun set over Harmony, casting a warm glow across the landscape, Darren turned to Faye. "Remember when we first met? I never imagined we'd end up here." Faye smiled, her hand resting on her swollen belly. "And yet, here we are, building a future neither of us could have dreamed of." As they watched the diverse group of children playing in the streets below, a comm alert chimed softly. Captain Sato's voice came through, tinged with excitement. "Darren, Faye, we've detected another asteroid cluster nearby. The Council is asking if you're ready for another terraforming mission." The hybrid couple exchanged a grin, their eyes sparkling with the thrill of new possibilities. There was still so much to explore, so much potential to unlock. Their journey, it seemed, was just the beginning.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.